we have our guest who's already lined up. For those who are just tuning in, today we're going to be having a phenomenal guest who's based out here in Calgary, and I hope you're ready to hear what she has to say. So good evening, Aunt Spiwe. Don't as introduction, Asha.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. It's always a pleasure having you. Like when we get to interview, talk, and catch up on what you're up to or what you've been up to. So it is actually amazing to have you on.
Thank you.
So anyway, just to start off, for those who do not know, when they get too excited with but but just to bring our listeners up to speed with your upbringing, a little bit about your background, who really is Aunt Spiwe?
That's a difficult one because it's kind of difficult to sort of explain who you are to other people. But my name is SPIWE KACHIDZA-MPOFU, and I am from Zimbabwe. I was born in a small town called Mutoko. That's where I grew up, and then I went to America to go to university way back in the 70s. And when I was done with school, I went back to Zimbabwe, got married, had a beautiful son, and worked in the media because when I went to school, I did journalism in mass communications. So when I came back to Zimbabwe, I worked for the Broadcast Corporation. I worked for ZBC, worked for Ziana when they just started Ziana, and I went into public relations, and it's a long road. And after that, I moved to Canada. Much later in my life, I moved to Canada,
right,
where I have been staying since, I've been living since 2005 until now. It's a good 17 years now. Oof, long time.
It is a long time, and here we are. And you mentioned about journalism. What made you choose to get into journalism when you went back to Zimbabwe? And at what age did you said you came for university in America?
Yes. I was 19 when I went to the States to go to school. Then I did my master's degree in journalism and mass communication. I always liked writing. I always loved reading, and so I wanted a career in the media.
Nice.
And so I was lucky because when I went back to Zimbabwe, that was 1980, just after independence. So jobs were galore, and it was interesting. It was a new moving into a new area, really, and they were looking for people like us who had just come back home to fill the spaces that were left in broadcasting and print media, etc.
Oh, that is so awesome, and good for the listeners to learn. I know that journey. We've had it
far back. It's way back when I think it's such a long time now, but it's been a fantastic and fabulous journey for me. That time moving from Zimbabwe when I was 19, and now it's really coming full circle.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not the young girl who went to school to the United States to go to school, who got back to Zimbabwe in 1980, got married, and blah, blah, blah. I'm not. I'm now a go-go. I'm a grandmother. Yeah, I got one son and 4 grandchildren who I adore.
And I always see your pictures, your videos, and everything, but definitely we're going to dive into that because that is the main reason why we are hanging out with you today. We're going to be talking about your new book entitled A Trip to Zimbabwe with Go. Like, it just sounds fun already, right? But then you also mentioned about writing and then we're having to work for Ziana and coming here. So when you moved from Zimbabwe, did you move as a journalist as well, or you came and changed a whole different field? Like back home it was easier, especially after independence, right? But then coming back here, how was it like?
I tell you what, because when I came here, I actually didn't think I was going to stay this long. I thought I was just going to be here for a couple of years and then go back home. Okay. I just lost my husband and I needed some time off, and and I thought coming back here would give me time to breathe and reconfigure what I wanted to do. And for a while, I just kind of hung in there and tried to do this, that, and everything. And then I got into a job which I wasn't looking for, which I think it just kind of like fell mama oko mangu when I wasn't looking for it. I got a job in working in HIV education. So all of a sudden I was in a completely new field. I had no business being there, but you know, sometimes I think if it's yours, it will look for you.
Yeah,
and I have a feeling that this particular job that I'm just about to retire from it after 10 years doing the same job, and I've loved it, I've enjoyed it, and it's really changed the way I look at life.
Nice.
And I'm not a nurse. I was not trained as a nurse, but mine was education to give education to communities, African, Caribbean, and Black communities here in Canada, in Calgary, anyway. And raising awareness on HIV, and I've loved that job. I've worked with amazing people. Yeah.
Wow, that is so crazy. And like you mentioned, Goti, sometimes even when you're not looking for something, it'll come looking for you. And if it resonates with your path, it won't be difficult for you to say, why this now? Right? Considering you have a master's in, you know, journalism and media stuff, and you're thinking, wow, you know, having to enjoy it and talking about retirement. What then made you decide to get into writing? Because we know you, it's not your first book that you're writing, but this one is so dear to you.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Right. But what got you into the journey of writing? When did you start writing? And what was your first book up until the one we're going to be talking about today?
It's interesting because I tell you what, when I really just started thinking I would like to write, and be published, my idea at that time was to write in Shibuja. I'm from Mutoko, and the language spoken in Mutoko is Buja. It's a dialect. It's one of the dialects in Zimbabwe, right? But and I started writing. I wanted to do short stories, so I compiled like 4 stories in Buja. Buja is not standard Shona, and it's specific to that area, right? So if I give you a story which I wrote in Buja, you may not even be able to understand what it is. You might get an idea, but not the full story, right? Because it's not standard Shona. So I started doing that and compiled these stories. I needed somebody to edit them, and it was also difficult finding somebody who speaks it deeply to be able to edit those stories. So I put them on the side. And just the manuscripts, I just left them there. And then some friends of mine reached out to me about maybe 4 years ago, and they were writing a book, Township Girls, the Crossover Generation. And that's when I really just started writing, because the 31 women who put together these stories of growing up in Rhodesia and crossing over to the new Zimbabwe. And I was one of the 31 women who wrote, because I wanted to be I always like to say I'm the oldest of the Township Girls. So I wrote my piece. Yes, I wrote my piece, and then our book was published. It was really, you interviewed me to talk about Township Girls and what that was.
And I read it and I got it, and they were really good, interesting stories to learn, especially for a born free. Then you go, oh wow, what happened in Rhodesia? Like, how does it feel now, guys? Now that you've crossed over, it was interesting stories that I got to read, and it was
amazing stories of different perspectives of lives. Those who grew up in the cities, those who grew up in rural areas, those who grew up who had come back to Zimbabwe, were born in the diaspora and came back to the new Zimbabwe, but they grew up in England or other parts of the world. But that was really interesting when we did that book, and the book launches all over the place, and people were fascinated. People like yourself who were born the born frees, and it was like, wow, what a life! Is that how it was like?
And it's always, you know, what's even funny, the fact that I never used to like history. I hated history. History was my worst. So for me, that book was more like, it's a bit awakening to a point where even right now, I'm now learning what is culture, what is tradition, what is our culture, and, you know, religion and stuff like that. And it's much easier, I guess, now because I'm older and I'm beginning to see what's happening in life, right? Versus when you're young, you kind of don't get it. And you're thinking, especially now, entertainment. You know, and my dad used to always say, I'm a zero music, I'm a zero book, you know. So it was one of those, now it's, oh, I want to learn this. And it's never too late to start learning anything, right? So I find that book was really interesting to learn, you know, especially you understand more when you're coming from that country than which did a culture, which history, Canada. It doesn't relate, you know, it's not relatable to me.
And you see a lot of young people like yourself, you have no idea what it was like back then. Now it's like back then, it's like way back. It's not really that way back. That's when your parents were growing up in ourselves. So, you know, it's kind of talk actually people like, well, what was it like back then? And really not that far back. Yeah.
Back then.
But those lived experiences of those women in township girls, I think it's very important to us and to younger people to look back and say, oh, that's how it was. Yeah.
Right. And so moving over though to today's main topic, our new book, which I cannot wait to get a hold of because I need an autograph, by the way, now that we're in the same city.
Yes, that's right. Next week, if you come to my house, I'll give you a signed copy of the book.
Absolutely. I look forward to getting a hold of that. The book, A Trip to Zimbabwe with Gogo. Mind giving us just, first of all, a synopsis of the book, and then also what inspired you to write that one? Like, I know my mom is a grandma. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
I know. Well, A Trip to Zimbabwe with Gogo, how it started. Okay, let me say that. It's a book. It's really a window into a trip into Zimbabwe, visiting Zimbabwe. It's like a tour into Zimbabwe with my grandkids. And we get to Zimbabwe, took them to Wange because my grandson loves animals, and yes, he loves Africa. They've never been to Africa. My son lives in Australia with his family, so they've never been to Zimbabwe. And I've always, each time I go there, say, "Go, when are we going to Zimbabwe? Oh, what do we expect to see?" So I wanted to take a virtual trip to Zimbabwe with them. Went to falls, to Wange, so all the animals. We went to rural area, to Chiweshe, where my husband was from, and to Mutoko, where I am from, and then we went to Mbari Msika. Because, yes, I mean, really, it's 5 places that we went on this trip. Could have gone more, but they were there for 3 weeks. I mean, I took them to Zimbabwe for 3 weeks. Yes, so I could have made them little books of A Visit to Wange, another one, A Visit to Vic Falls, but I thought I would put them all together and make the 5 trips in one book.
Wow.
And it's got a lot of illustrations. It's a children's book, really, for children between 5 and 15. So it's got a lot of illustrations in there, which makes it very interesting for kids. If they're still young, parents can read for them, but for them to be able to turn the pages and look at the illustrations. And when they're old enough to read, they can read for themselves.
And which is actually fascinating because we live in a world where everybody is trying to learn where they come from. Everybody, you know, like we're focusing on who are we as a people, especially Black people out here in the diaspora. Look at Black Americans, they're trying to look for their heritage, find their heritage. So okay, yes, our you know, our ancestors were enslaved, but who are we as an individual? And I feel, Kuti, with your book, like you've just mentioned, Kuti, it's got illustrations and stuff like that. That could actually be fascinating to a kid, you know, especially like when I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go to this place. I want to see, you know what I mean? Because kids love, you know, picture mkati.
Exactly. Those illustrations, that's why I thought that would capture their attention. Go through the book. It's 93 pages, but it's the kind of book that you can read. Today we're going to read the story going to Wange with Gogo. So you read Wange, see the animals, what did they do, all the stuff. And then we're going to Vic Falls, and then drive from Wange to Vic Falls. Now, today we're reading Vic Falls, what is it like? And, you know, we went to bungee jumping, and we went to see this and all those things. And then the following day, today we're taking a trip to go to Mbuya Kuchueshe. And then we talk about the trip to Chiweshe, to for a day with my cousins, and playing kumanyisa huku ukishabikwa na nambuya and all that stuff. So all those little stories put together make the book A Trip to Zimbabwe with Gogo, with my grandkids, and seeing the real people that they are relatives, but it could be any child. The names that are given to the kids are not their real names.
Oh, nice. Yeah, of course, when it comes to writing, usually it's easier to do it that way.
Yeah, but for themselves, if they are reading, they can tell this is me, Gogo is talking. This is me.
Well, didn't they laugh when you decided I'm going to make a book and it's going to be about us and all that? No.
They just, you know, I'll tell you why this I decided to write this book, how it started. Because thank God these days things are different, and with COVID, I mean, you know, I can't go there. I normally go to Australia like once a year, right? But the past 3 years I haven't been. But I spend a lot of time with my grandkids. But yeah, particularly the 3 little ones, because they still little. They want to hear stories. They love to hear stories about Zimbabwe. So every Saturday and Sunday, they'll say, Gogo, tell us a story, right? And I'll tell them folklore stories, Zana Gudo, Nana Tsuro, and whatever. And they love those things. When I started it, I was just telling them that off the top of my head. Right. And then I realized they'll say, Gogo, tell us that story you told us about Gudo. And then I'm like, oh gosh, I have to start again. So I started writing them. You know, during the week, I'll write the story and type them and put them on, you know, on the side. Then next week I'll do another story about something else, you know, and put it on the side. So I'll read to them, and they'll sit down. They'll say, okay, it's story time with Gogo. Then they'll sit down and you know, then we'll talk about it. We will read the stories, and then we'll ask, what did you learn? And then they say, oh, Gudo was nasty to so-and-so, or Tsuro was nasty, that's not nice. And so
you know, as you're speaking right now, questions that came to my mind. Now that you mentioned, Gudo, Tsuro was nasty. Of course, Tsuro was the nasty one, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, so how were you telling the stories in our vernacular language or in English? Because you know how sometimes it's easier when you're like,
no, because they don't speak Shona. They don't speak Shona.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, and so I you know, it's easy to do Sorona Gudo in Shona, right? That's why
and even just the comedy behind it too.
Yes,
right?
yes. But you know what? The interesting thing is, because I remember once I was telling them the story of Suro and Gudo going to visit girlfriends, right? And Suro, being the smart one, you know, said to Gudo, "Can you put me on your back?" When they were getting to the girls, you know, and they were sitting there and listening carefully. And the little one goes, "Gogo, what were the names of the girls?" And I was like, you know, those folklore stories, they don't have names, right?
They don't have names.
It's just like, sure, they have to have names. They have names, Google. But, you know, it's just that creative piece, you know, and that curiosity of knowing what that was all about. You know?
Right. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. And, you know, like Generation Even is more of why Who?
I know.
How? You know, it's like everything has a question.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I was
Yeah. So
surprised.
that's how it started. And then after then one day I just thought, these kids, they really have always wanted to go to Zimbabwe. Why don't I take them to Zimbabwe in a story? Why don't I write a book and a story form, and what places would I like to take them if I was going to go? I'll take them to Wange so they can see the animals, and then we can take them to Vic Falls, and then I take them to their home place, Kuchiweshe, and to meet their cousins who they've never met, and the other gogos over there, and what would it look like? But
and
I
how
want
was the experience though then? So did they love it? Did like meeting the new cousins, having to,
they
to say,
did. They had
yeah.
to, yeah, vakamhanya vachibata huku, vachitenderera vachimhanya kubata
Oh,
huku, and then they cooked the huku, vakagara pasi vachidya nana gogo kumusha,
yeah.
and my grandson akauya nebhora rake kubva kuAustralia, vakatamba bhora muroads nemacousins ake. Akati,
Nice.
gogo, can I go and tindonotora mombe dzaanza kupfigirwa? So say, yeah, go. So they went to my new cousins ake, vakanikina mombe, and they brought them kumba and vakapfigira mombe, and then after that, time to say goodbye, and then we went back to Harare with gogo.
Wow, wow. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
so that's really pretty much what the book is all about. It's just
Right.
yeah, this stuff that that you see kind of mind kumusha, and I want them to have a feel of that, what it looks like. And I felt it's important that they see that through the book. Yeah, they go through that through the book, because we have to capture these things.
Absolutely.
We have to create these memories.
Absolutely.
And we have to tell our grandkids stories like that, so that they know, because that's what they will expect to see if you take them to Kumusha, to Zimbabwe. And we are different kind of, we're different generation, different kind of gogos.
Absolutely.
Totally different from what my mother was like or my grandmother was like.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I'm a gogo who understands the kids, who is traveled, who has a basic education, or maybe a good education, so to speak. And we want to really be part of our grandchildren's lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's something else when Gogo can't speak to the grandchildren. She would love to speak to the grandchildren, but my grandmother never went to school. Fortunately, I spoke Shona, so that was easy. I could always go and sit there, Gogo, and was but most of the gogos varikumusha, even my cousins and Wamwanambuye, they vanogona kutaura nawo nechirungu, or whatever language. Yeah, they can communicate now. Yeah, without feeling isolated, where you just go there wakadi, then mwana ongonyarara. Which I also think it's unfortunate. People should try and educate and help their children to vadzidzire language. They won't be able to speak it fluently like we did.
Yeah, but to understand at least.
Yes, they understand, so they don't look stupid. Actually, frankly speaking, I think they will look stupid.
Yeah, because I think I was talking to somebody. It must have been I was talking to a pastor who's one of our pastors who's based in the UK, and every time I hear her on the phone talking to her kids in Shona, and I'm like, but Uchivanzgo, you hear the kids responding, but mommy, I want to do, because they're British too, right? And I was laughing with her. I was like, so they actually understand. They understand literally everything. I told them I'm not going to speak in English. I used to speak in English, but I was like, you know what? I want my kids to at least understand. They may not speak, it's fine, right? But I want them to be able to understand. Yeah. So they know where they come from. So they know what even when they decide they're grown up, because there's some people, look at we have some people like Tanya Fear, right? She's half Zimbabwean, half British. And, you know, now she's gotten to go back to Zim, talk about people like having the sense of belonging. Good, oh, I want to know where I come from or who I am and whatever. And it makes it easy. Oh, chakati. Then good, oh, I can't hear. Can I please have a translator? She knows or lose a context in the way.
It does, but you know, it's just so old-fashioned.
Absolutely.
Oh, yesterday. I mean, it's just so yesterday, really. And those who can really still make an effort it is really beautiful. Just like it's to learn another language is very important, and it looks good on you actually.
Yeah, exactly. And having to say, good, oh, I understand maybe 3 languages. And then I'm proud I speak 3 languages. You know what I mean? So it's always nice to.
And also just for them to, again, if other than the language, just the experience, not to be mesmerized and shocked and looking silly. And everything. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? They have to know. No man, you got cheese butter. Kana tauraya mbudzi tinouraya togadzira maguru tobva tabika tobva tadya.
Exactly.
Kwamutoko tinodyira nemuti dzodonha mango dzacho todziisa mubox toenda nodzidya.
Right.
I want them to be able to know that that's how I grew up.
That's how you grew up. And to also just, you know, embrace your own background as well. To wow, Gogo, this is how you grew up. And then another thing, you know, so I thought it's okay, so we also want to play outside, you know, like overseas, it's like small yards and, you know, and Kashoma, Vanavano abduct a lot. So you can't really let your kid be out there if it's just because it's like, it's just different.
It's a different place, it's a different culture, but for them to embrace what their parents, what their father grew up, but as well. That's why I wanted them to see, you know, I would like for them to see that. I really can't wait for me to physically take them there.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And it must have been an experience for you and the Vasukuru.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, to me, they're just the salt of the earth.
Awesome. And you also mentioned another thing, as I am going to be retiring and all that jazz, yada. But to set it out of retirement, let's talk about the podcast that you have, the show that you have on YouTube, on Facebook. It is so amazing, though, like you said, the one thing is we don't quite understand like your dialect, right? So what inspired you to start your show, and how is the audience response, if I should put it that way, considering it's a language that's not really, you know, understandable in Zim as much, if I should,
you know, it's not like it's not understandable. You can understand it. It's just you don't speak that way. Yeah, and some words might mean different from how, like standard Shona. Okay. Right. But the podcast, how I started, because I felt I'm very, very attached to my people, to my language, and to my to Mutoko. I grew up there, and I've always felt people don't quite understand. They don't know much about Mutoko, including some of the people who come Mutoko. They feel, but they just don't think big about Mutoko. Yet it's such a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful culture. It's a beautiful customs, and a very rich place, both in minerals and in produce. For instance, all the mangoes you eat in Harare, they come from, majority of them, they come from Mutoko. My tomatoes, all and Mutoko. A lot of things that are grown in Mutoko. But still, when I go sick, I go, and I wanted to showcase Mutoko. There's more to Mutoko than just as people demeaning it and talking about Mutoko as if it's like the back of the world. There is something there. And I know there is a huge following of people who are all over the world. And I saw on Facebook, there was a group which used to, it's still there. They talk about Repamutoko in that language, but on Facebook.
Right.
Hey, if there is a following, I was a member of that. And I really enjoyed it. And this time, some of those words, because I haven't used them in words, it was just so beautiful. A conversation in Chimuja. And I thought, wow, that is so beautiful. When I meet people from Mutoko, we talk like that. But generally, people speak in English or standard Shona, blah, 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 and that kind of stuff. But I felt there's a market out there dying for such,
guess what's funny? I am getting feedback as we speak. And one of my cousins who's here as well is like, I need to find her book and I need to find her Buja stories because we are Buja from Mutoko as well. So, you know what I mean? Which is so amazing. I will link you up with her.
You should connect her with me. You should connect her with me. We're going to have a book launch here in Calgary very soon. And I put it on my Facebook. Our podcast, the Kanoi Wanyai. Kanoi Wanyai is hello, my friends. That's what Kanoi is Kumoresa. That's how we
Kanoi Wanyai. Okay.
Wanyai are friends.
Wanyai. Oh, Kanoi Wanyai. Oh, okay. So definitely, if for those who are not on Facebook, and the people who are giving me feedback are not on Facebook, by the way. My aunt is like, my aunt Wicked is the book on Amazon. We'll get into that. That's the last bit. So if for those who are not on Facebook, is there another way that they can access your show or like
on YouTube?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, they can get on Facebook or on YouTube. Kanoi Wanyai broadcast.
Okay.
And with Sangwa Spiwe.
There we go. Guys, Imagines with Omega. And if you need more details, please feel free to come through and we will definitely give you more details. It is worth listening to. And definitely we're so excited for your book, Aunt Spiwe. And yes, I am getting my copy as usual.
It's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. It's on Kindle. And those who are in Calgary, we're going to have a book launch. And, I can sign the book and you can purchase it.
Absolutely. So guys, we will definitely give you an update on when it's going to launch as soon as we get all the, unless you already have the information on when you're going to launch, Aunt Spiwe.
I don't have the dates yet because I'm going away for a little bit. So I think when I get back, probably in April, definitely in April.
Hey, Sisonke. Right.
Exactly.
So definitely I'm not gonna miss it.
No, you can't.
Yeah. So we'll definitely give the details even right here on air and on all the social platforms. If you don't mind, for people to follow you, those who do not who would like to follow you and follow your show, do you mind sharing your YouTube handles, your Facebook, your Instagram, any other social media handle that you have?
Okay. They can get me on Kanoi Wanyai broadcast or SPIWE Kachi on my Instagram. And my Facebook as well.
Okay. The question that I missed earlier. Hey, I was saying we are retiring, and what's the plan? And when are we having a retirement party? Because we can plan these parties.
That sounds good. Well, formal employment, that's retirement, yes, but I will continue writing books, and a trip to Zimbabwe really is going to be a series of books on for children, yes. So I am going to be busy and want to talk about animals that you find in Zimbabwe, but in a relatable manner to children. Yes. So all those things are, really lined up for life after formal work.
Absolutely.
And in my broadcast, I also want to go. I want to go radio as well. There's just a whole lot of things that I would like to get into. We'll see as we go. We'll see as we go.
You're welcome to be a part of After 5 Radio. I'm
Of
your
course.
so here's a formal invite.
Yeah, of course.
I will
Anytime.
pass it through to our producer and then you can just link
It
up
would be
with everything.
fantastic. Yeah, it would be
Oh,
fantastic.
that is so phenomenal. And we look forward to life after retirement, and definitely, hopefully, we'll get to sit down again talking about our next book, about animals,
Yes.
about what even fruits in Zimbabwe. I've been reading about, fruits in Zimbabwe. Interesting. I was like, wow. Studying my English names in Matamba, really, so
Exactly.
it's quite
My
interesting.
African oranges.
Exactly. But no, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you, Auntie Spiwe. And it was lovely getting to know, to understand what the book is about, a trip to Zimbabwe with Gogo. And we look forward to getting a hold of it. People, Hansi, go on Amazon. It is there. And if you want a signed copy, feel free to, if you're in Alberta and are willing to drive down to Calgary, we will let you know the dates so you can drive down for the launch, and let's support Auntie Spiwe in her journey of writing. And so thank you
We're
so
having
much.
a launch in Calgary. We have another launch this summer when it's warm in Edmonton.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mukuzvinzwira mega, guys. Saka ininiwo ndatoitokita for vanhu veEdmonton. Mukuzvinzwa? Saka right. Thank you so much, Auntie. It's been a pleasure
You are
and
welcome.
always an honor. But yeah, I would definitely link up with you. And see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I enjoy it as usual, Missy, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye now.